wasn't sure if you'd actually show up or not, to be honest. I'm glad you did. Well, I am, I think. I guess that's mostly going to depend on you, but I was hoping to get this off on the right foot. I mean, I'd personally always rather lead with optimism. It's a good faith offer, after all. Or at least it was from my end. That's good to know. There are a couple of administrative things we need to handle really quickly before I give you the rundown. First, the waiver here, releasing the Paranormal Investigation Society of Sarley from any liability of harm you might suffer while on the investigation, and agreeing that you'll pay for any equipment you might break. To my knowledge, never. The Society is really careful about who we ask to join, and even more careful about who we bring along as guest investigators. You're the first one I'm aware of who's been onboarded within a span of 24 hours. Normally, that's a process that takes at least a week. We like to educate people on the equipment first, get a feel for them as... Have you always been such a cynic? It's because we like to know what people's pain points are so that we can keep them as emotionally safe as we can. We wouldn't put someone who had suffered a particular type of loss on an investigation that might touch that specific hurt too closely. We aren't out to hurt people. I keep telling you that. Anyway, this waiver is for us, the Society. This waiver is for the owners of the building because the full extent of the structural damage still hasn't been assessed, and going inside is somewhat risky. From what the owner of the building told me at the reconnaissance interview earlier this evening, and judging by what I personally saw in the walkthrough, as long as we stay on the western side of the building, it should be fine. Theoretically, anyway. The fire did climb all 3 floors, but it was mostly contained to the eastern half, as that's the freestanding wall, and the actual arson was apparently focused primarily on that portion of the building. Which seems really odd, to be honest, but dealing with that isn't part of my job, this job, or my day job. So focusing on it, or even trying to figure it out, seems kind of silly. Yeah, I did. You didn't ask! Why would I assume that you'd want to go on... Oh my god damn it, of course you would. I guess hoping you'd even trust that much was a bridge too far. I have video footage of the entire interview. I'll contact the building's owner tomorrow and get them to sign a release, and then I can email it and the notes I took to you so you can review them. Fair warning, I only have one camera angle for it, and I'm not technically in it. Well, I mean, I am, but not where you can really see me. We do the prelims with a personal body camera. That feels like a loaded question. You're probably not wrong. I'm going to do my best to pretend you aren't an investigative reporter and are just a regular guest investigator. So, first thing I need you to do is sign the waivers, please. Yeah, the hood of the van is fine. Thanks. Okay, we do prelims so we can know what the client is experiencing. That gives us a good clue where to start our investigation. If they're hearing something only in the basement, for example, that's where we'll focus first. We'll check the whole house just to be sure, but we won't be as concerned with, say, the attic in that circumstance. It also sometimes gives us a clue of what it might be if it's something natural rather than something paranormal. One time, a client called us because she heard this weird singing every time she'd do laundry. Yes, everything would be fine until the spin cycle, and that's when it would start. Every time. And it honestly was legitimately creepy. It sounded like a woman just humming inside the wall. It honestly reminded me of parts of the yellow wallpaper. Oh, that story still terrifies me. But anyway, one of our investigators at the time was a journeyman plumber and was able to recognize it immediately as soon as he heard it. You see, to the best of the client's knowledge, the previous owners had done a full remodel of the home, which they did, but it turns out they'd redone the plumbing everywhere except the laundry room because it was a slightly newer room that had been remodeled already when they bought the house. So it turns out the pipes were just really old in the laundry room at that point, and some valve or something was failing, leading to water pressure causing something called what was it? Oh, God. A water hammer, I think. Something like that. We went ahead and checked the rest of her house that night, just to be thorough, and we found absolutely nothing else. Our investigator referred her to a plumber, and she called us back a month later to say that that had completely resolved her issue. On cases like tonight, though, where we don't know a lot, the prelim just gives us a good idea of where to set up cameras to cover as much physical ground as possible. Follow me, which leads me nicely to the equipment. It is, which is why everyone signs a waiver. Even me. Mine's just permanently on file. So the computer there at the back, that's basic. We have the video from our regular cameras feeding to it continually. And there are the cameras, there are tripods and the body cameras. Oh, and the little freestanding security cameras, but I don't think we'll be using those on this job, really. They're more for residential areas when we need some odd angles to be covered. It's not quite so tight in a commercial space. Over here are our infrared cameras, and we have to manually upload the footage from those, so that's something to keep in mind if you think you caught something on them. These little weird hockey puck looking things, yeah, right there, are called REM pods. If the electromagnetic field around it's disturbed, it lights up and beeps really loudly. You can't miss it. These are our digital recorders and headsets. And last but not least, these bad boys are EMF readers. They pick up on fluctuations in electromagnetic energy that could indicate if a ghost has manifested recently. Well, I didn't figure you needed me to tell you what flashlights were. Yeah, the power in the building is going to be off. Why would we want things to be creepier? The clients are already usually terrified, or at the very least, deeply concerned by the time they reach out to us, and the only other people in the building are other investigators. We can't do a good job investigating if we're too spooked to stay somewhere. was actually a legitimate question, wasn't it? I'm sorry. I'm trying not to be defensive, I promise. The society just means so much to me, and it's run by such good people. And the idea that someone thinks we might. Sorry. Sorry. We do investigations at night in the dark for the sake of trying not to taint any results. At night, you're less likely to have traffic sounds or other ambient noise bleeding over and either making an EVP. That's short for electronic voice phenomenon. Indistinguishable if it's actually happening, or mistaking some other natural sounds for one. The electromagnetic equipment also behaves better at night with lights off. It's sensitive enough that it can react to lights being on and give a false positive. All of our decisions are about trying to be as unbiased with the data as possible. I told you, we want it to be nothing. It isn't always, but we always want it to be. Okay. Ready to load up, Hotshot? Good. Welcome to the team. Even if it's only for tonight.